Welcome back to my channel, Simplified English 101. If you are new to this channel, please remember, like this video, leave a comment. Do not forget to subscribe to my channel and ring that good old notification bell so that you can be informed when a new video is posted.
In today's video, we are going to be looking at writing a comparative essay for English literature. The video will focus on all you need to know when writing your comparative essay, what you should do, as well as provide you with a step-by-step guide to write the essay and a sample essay. As usual, I have objectives for you. So by the end of this lesson, you should be able to explain and better understand the concept of how to compare and contrast. You should be able to identify the aspects of literature text, whether it be a poem or a short story that you want to compare. You should be able to create an outline after examining a sample essay, and of course, follow the steps to write your own essay on any given topic. The first thing that you need to know is what is a comparative essay. A comparative essay is a writing task that requires you to compare two or more items. You may be asked to compare two or more literary works, theories, arguments, or historical events. A comparative essay typically asks you to write an essay comparing two works by the same writer or different writers. For example, you may be asked to write a comparative essay comparing two poems written by the same author, for example, William Shakespeare, or two prose fiction pieces, short stories, written by different authors. Although an essay may simply state to compare two literary works, the assumption is that you should be able to also contrast the text or poems, meaning you're going to be looking at both the similarities and the differences. Now that you know that, the question is, how do you, as a student, identify the basis for comparison in either the two poems or two short stories? In writing your comparative essay, you should first identify the basis of comparison. It allows you to look for similarities and differences between the two poems or two short stories. In either case, you need to begin by identifying the basis of comparison, meaning what is it that you're going to be focusing on in this comparative essay. For example, a question might ask you to compare the effects of war on a people or on people by examining two poems. The poems, This Is the Dark Time I Love by Martin Carter and the Dulce et Decorum Est by Wilfred Owen. In this example, the basis for comparison is the effects of war on people. It makes it clear. If the instruction only asks you to compare two literary works based on the question, then you will need to develop your own basis. For CXC, you will always be given a basis for comparison. That is normally the first sentence written in inverted quotations above the question. And once you see that, then you know that is the basis. If not, it is written in the question itself. For the most part, the basis of comparison is located in the very first part of the question. This Is the Dark Time I Love by Martin Carter and Dulce et Decorum Est by Wilfred Owen are both poems that present a horrific picture of the experience of war. I want you to notice that although CXC will not color code the questions for you, I have done so for you. This first part of the question, it highlights the basis of comparison, which is the horrific picture of the experience of war. And you're going to be looking out for this in both poems. Some persons call the basis of comparison the stem of the question. Either. This part of the question, which is the basis of comparison or the stem, it is the part that presents the issue of the question that you will focus on. Now, once you know how to identify the basis of comparison, it makes it easy for you to know what to write and how you are going to write. Now, let's move on. You understand the question, you understand the basis of comparison, you have selected the two poems that you want, or you are thinking about selecting them. It is now time for you to develop a list of similarities and or differences. Now, whether you want to create a skeleton in exam, on your paper, or for practice purposes, until you master the skill, you must develop a list of similarities and differences. Remember, this is a comparative essay, and you are also asked to look at the contrast. After you identify your basis of comparison for the stem, you should examine the literary text and their similarities and differences. The similarity and differences should focus on the basis of comparison. For example, you might conclude that in the poem, This is a Dark Time I Love by Martin Carter, it shows how the terrors and the tortures of war can ruin dreams of a people and make them so depressed and lose all hope. While in Dulce et Decorum Est by Wilfred Owen, it shows how the horrors of war, as experienced by the persona on the war front, has affected them holistically, which, in contrary to what they had been told, is sweet and honorable to die for one's country. Now, you're going to use these observations along with the list or any list that you have created with those similarities and differences to construct your thesis statement and an outline for your comparative essay. Now, there's many things that you can look at for either the poems or the short stories. These are just a few. You can look at the similarities and differences in the content, in the setting or intended setting of the piece, in the structure of the piece, the form of the piece, the devices, the mood, the tone, the atmosphere, the language, or the historical background. So there are many things that you can actually compare. Now, once you have completed your similarities and differences, it is time for you to start planning your essay. In planning your essay, you want to use the introduction to explain the poems that you're going to be writing about. Try to balance out information presented for both poems. Don't overdo one and the one is underdeveloped. You want to compare both poems. You also want to contrast both poems or short stories. You can comment on the content, the themes, the ideas and attitudes, as well as the form, the structure, and language. You want to sum up your thoughts in both poems or short stories for the concluding paragraphs, or of course, in the concluding sentences. Now, once you plan your essay, it is time to move on to organizing your essay. Organization of your essay is crucial. That is because you want to ensure that each poem or each short story is fully developed. As I pointed out earlier, you don't want to underdevelop one, underwrite for one, underprovide evidence, underexplain for one, and then one is overdone. You don't want to overcook steak and then an undercooked steak on your plate. You want them to be equal, right, for the effect. In organizing your essay, you want to first have your introductory paragraph. Your introductory paragraph is followed by your body paragraphs, which will be paragraphs 2, 3, and 4. Then you want to have your concluding paragraph. Notice that your body paragraphs, paragraphs 2, focuses on the situation, which is the first part of the question, and we're going to be going over that a little bit. Paragraph 3 mentions the theme, which means that for this paragraph, you're going to talk about the theme or the second part of the question in this paragraph only for both pieces of work. And in your fourth paragraph, but your third body paragraph, you're going to talk about the devices and their effectiveness for both poems or short stories. Then, of course, you conclude. Another way to organize your essay is, of course, your introduction. Just like the top one, it remains the same, doesn't change. Then you have your body paragraphs 2 to 4. Your body paragraph 2, you're going to focus on one poem or short story. And in this paragraph, you're going to talk about the situation, which is the first part of the question, and the themes, which is the second part of the question, in one paragraph. Then you're going to talk about your next literary work, poem or short story, in your third paragraph, which is your second body paragraph. In this paragraph, you're going to do the same that you did in the second paragraph, first body paragraph. Then your fourth paragraph, which is your third body paragraph, you're going to write about the devices and their effectiveness for both literary works. So feel free to use any of these outlines, anyone that makes it easier for you or you're more comfortable with. Then, of course, you want to conclude. Now that you know how to organize your essay, let us explore one of these outlines. This outline is used when comparing any two poems or short stories. Remember that for the English Literature exam, the paper 2, you're going to be asked to write one essay, one comparative essay, which means that you can either select 2 poems or 2 short stories to write on. I want you to remember that the format of the essay does not differ greatly from the basic essay. The only difference is you're going to be looking at 2 literary works, poems or short story. Like the basic essay, you will have an introduction, 3 body paragraphs, and a concluding paragraph. The difference is that unlike the basic essay, you're going to be comparing two pieces of work. Finally, try to identify the stem of the question, which is the basis of comparison. Once you do that, it makes it easy for you to focus on the three questions or parts of the question. Now let us focus on the introduction. For the introductory paragraph, you need to mention the basis for comparison in one sentence. This is like a topic sentence, if you may. It basically reinforces what you are going to be discussing in the overall essay. Now, this can be done in a sentence or two. What you must remember is that you must provide the name of both pieces of work and the authors. So if it's two poems, the name of two poems and the author's name. If it's two short stories, please do the same. The second thing to do is to give a summary of both pieces of work, poems or short story. In giving a summary, you can feel free to mention aspects that are similar and also aspects that are different. Remember though, when you're writing your summary, do not try to summarize the entire literary work. Only give a summary that will focus on the aspect of the question that you're answering. Now that you have written your second sentence, it's time for you to write your thesis statement. Your thesis statement must be written in one sentence. There are many persons who write their thesis sentence or statement as 3 and 2 sentences. That is incorrect. That is why it is called a thesis statement or sentence and not statements or sentences. Your thesis sentence should comprise of the 3 points from the question that you're going to be using to write your body paragraphs. These points will be your discussional points. I want you to also remember that a comparative thesis statement should assert why there are similarities and differences between the two pieces of work and what they are. Now that we understand the introductory paragraph and what it entails, let's just narrow in on the thesis statement. How to develop a thesis statement? This is often a problem for many students, as students get confused in how to write this lengthy sentence, whether it be compound sentence or compound complex sentence, and how to correctly punctuate it to ensure that it remains a statement or sentence and not statements and sentences. Now, once you've compiled a list of similarities and differences and decided what you want to focus on based on the question, you should then develop your thesis statement. Your thesis statement is the essay's main argument, and it should reflect the relative significance of each piece of work, which is the similarities and differences, again, based on the question. A good thesis statement will typically include similarities and differences and take a certain position about which is more important. The structure of your comparative paper should consist of an introductory paragraph, of course, your thesis statement at the end of your paragraph, and of course, your different supporting points in the rest of the essay. The purpose of the supporting paragraphs is that it will support your thesis statement. So let's just recap. Your thesis statement is the essay's main discussional point or points. You need to ensure that it includes a basis for comparison and the 3 points. How to organize your body paragraphs. I often tell my students you can never go wrong with using the PEAL technique. P stands for make a point, and this, of course, is your topic sentence. Once the point is made, you want to go ahead and explain that point, which brings us to our second E. Now, once you've explained the point you made at the top, which is a topic sentence, you want to go ahead and elaborate on this point by giving examples or giving evidence, whether you're making textual citation or you're paraphrasing. Now, once you have given evidence, you can, of course, play with the E some more by explaining the evidence given, or you can jump right into offering your concluding sentence. The concluding sentence is represented by the L, which is link the point to the question being discussed or topic sentence. For the concluding sentence, which is the L in PEAL, do not be afraid to make a justification. Justify the point you made. And in justifying the point you made, you can always relate it to real life. Now, why is the PEAL important? The PEAL is important because it is one of those methods of organizing or structuring your paragraphs in a way that makes it appear clear and focused. It links your essay to the topic and the thesis statement. It helps you to create in-depth content while adhering to detailed structure for each point. This, though, is only effective if you plan your key points and your essay. Now, this is what the structure of the body paragraphs looks like. We're going to be using the first method that I did give in the outline, which is for each paragraph, we're going to be responding to a part of the question. The question is broken down into 3 parts. You can identify these parts of the question because it normally begins with a verb. To discuss this, describe, examine, elaborate on, comment on. For your paragraph 2, we're going to focus on the situation. This is always the first part of the question. Sometimes it wants you to summarize the 2 works, to describe something in the 2 works, to discuss something in the 2 works. In your situation, you will focus on the first part of the question given and the first point mentioned in your thesis. Always remember, if you say that you wanted to identify the literary devices first in your thesis, your first body paragraph must reflect that. So the first thing you want to do is to state your topic sentence. Now, this is going to be the first point mentioned in your thesis statement. In doing so, make mention of the situation in both poems. This can be done individually or simultaneously. And of course, it must be done in the same paragraph if you're using this outline. Please remember that this is not a summary of both poems, rather a mention of the similar content that retells the main points being discussed. Your next sentence should be a sentence that either provides textual evidence or explain. I would suggest that you explain the point you made first, and then you go ahead to give evidence. But to each his own, whichever is more comfortable to you. Once your second paragraph is done, you want to go to your third paragraph. In this paragraph, the question normally wants you to examine some aspect of the theme, how the theme is presented. Whatever the question might want you to do, you, of course, again, will take the same outlook that you did for the first body paragraph, which is paragraph 2. You want to state your topic sentence, you want to explain the point you made, you want to give evidence, and you want to close with your justification or concluding sentence. For your last body paragraph, you will be focusing on the devices and their effectiveness, or you might be asked to look at a technique used and their effectiveness. Either, be prepared to discuss a device or a technique and their effectiveness. Now, you're going to be using the same outline, the PEEL technique, which is making your point, your topic sentence, providing evidence or explanation, and then your closing sentence. Your final paragraph, which is your concluding paragraph, wants you to write one sentence that restates your thesis statement from paragraph 1 or your topic sentence. Then you're going to refer to the 3 arguments that you presented in your body paragraph. And then you, of course, will conclude your paragraph by writing one sentence or 2 that connects your essay's topic to the real world. Now, this has taken us to the end of our video for today. Please remember that you should like this video, leave a comment. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. And do not forget, once you subscribe, hit that good old notification bell so that you can be informed when I post new videos like this. Until then, bye.